So Ashwin, last couple of years has been a lot of talk about how brands can better diversify their spending, reaching diverse audiences in a better way. What have you been seeing in terms of the way you're able to measure that, and the way that's maybe shifting dollars?
Super interesting topic, a little bit close to home, having grown up in an ethnic household in the US. A lot to be desired about, like making sure that our voice was heard in the way programming decisions are made, advertising decisions are made. And as we're, now as a participant in this industry, it was shocking to me just how little focus there is on inclusiveness in our measurement models. The term garbage in, garbage out gets used a lot. And I think even now in 2024, if you try to lift the hood and understand what's in the data that we use as a truth set to understand, who's in the audience, it's actually pretty shaky. We, just out of pure personal desire, I guess, put a lot of emphasis on making sure that the data we use for measurement is representative of, all the ethnic groups. It's geographically and demographically representative and unweighted. When we were compared to the competitive set in the measurement space, we got probably the closest to census level, parameters. And so it's something we take pride in. I really loved hearing that the industry cares about this more now and is taking a hard look, because the fact is that brands need to address the diversity that exists in the US and around the world. And if they're not doing it with the right measurement model, they could get some really unintended bad outcomes.
Do you think, big picture-wise, is it more of a challenge of the data isn't as good as it should be, or is it also structural, the way the agencies buy and brands think about this, or is it a combination of a lot of factors?
I think the biggest issue I'm seeing is we knew that sort of having one opaque panel that we couldn't really understand at the raw ingredient level sort of created a sort of reaction of, let's just go get more data, and big data is going to be better than small data. And I think maybe that reaction swung too far, to the point where just saying, well, I have 30 million, 40 million, 50 million devices, that means it must be better than 40,000 devices. That's actually not true. There's some smart data scientists that could defeat that logic very quickly. And in fact, anyone who took some basic statistics would know, like, the right data is always better, and your starting point as you project it really matters as well. So the starting point you want is one that you have the right attributes for, you can trust those attributes, and include the right balance before you start to do any weighting and projecting. So that's where we see the pendulum hopefully swinging back. As budgets and sort of marketer requirements are becoming more focused on diversity, I think that's going to put real pressure on the whole measurement ecosystem, to level up their game. And we're actually super excited about that.
Catch us up on how we've last couple of years, it's been a lot of push on currency, better measurement. How does that cause align with this ambition for more representative spending? Does it make it harder? How does that look?
Well, the currency question, I think, gets a little too much airtime, and the reason is that there was a variety of interests that just completely ignored the consumer and ignored the advertiser. I mean, most of the discussions have been about how do I reduce the cost of currency, instead of how do I make measurement better and more inclusive. And so if we kind of eliminate some of the business interests and just talk about how do we make media more representative and make messaging more relevant, I think we would come to very different conclusions than what we've seen in the last couple of years. What we did in reaction to that is we actually bowed out of the traditional TV currency race and just focused. We stuck to our knitting of basically building data sets that we felt were representative and truthful, and then basically democratizing those. So we'll make those available to measurement companies that are a competitive set, to currency providers, to brands, agencies, anyone who's basically interested in the innovation. We want our data to be available for that innovation. And we recently announced a relationship with Metrics, so that and an even further improved data set could be available once they start to scale up their panel measurement as well.
Lastly, you mentioned that this is your 20th CES. What can you tell us about how it's evolved, and are there things that really stood out to you that are really exciting for this coming year?
Yeah, it's a great thing that's sort of naturally evolved. So you're dating me here. So in the early 2000s, this was an electronic show. I think it's now become very much a technology show. But more than that, like, because technology touches every aspect of our lives, media is here in a meaningful way, in its own venue. Of course, there's some connectivity to the traditional CES, but we have like a concentration of the right decision makers from around the world coming to CES now. It saves us having to travel around the world. It's more environmentally sort of conscious in that respect. But for our industry, I'd say, like, next to maybe Cannes, it's probably the most important event that a lot of us will come to for 2024.
So Ashwin, can you give us a little bit more detail on the importance of HIFA?
Yeah, you bet. So the team at HIFA has built some really great technology, and where they've differentiated in their panel technology is trying to understand every room in the house, every device in the house, whether it's traditional TV or streaming. They're sort of looking at building models to really understand media holistically within that panel. They make that technology, they make that panel available, the data from that panel available to anyone who's trying to innovate. And so philosophically, we like that transparency. They came to us with a desire to augment with big data, maybe even to calibrate our big data using their panel. And so we made a deal where we license our data to HIFA. HIFA's enriching it with their capability, and then making that new data set available to the market. So again, we're enabling currency providers, anyone with high stakes decisions with a more inclusive data set. And that's a data licensing proposition that we were happy to support HIFA so they could offer into the marketplace as one integrated solution.